All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we do roll call.
Yep. So Acushnet, Attleboro, Berkeley.
Here.
Thank you. Carver, Dartmouth, Dighton.
Dartmouth is here.
Dartmouth. Thank you. Dighton, Fairhaven.
Here.
Thank you. Fall River,
Here.
Freetown, Lakeville,
Here.
Mansfield,
Here.
Marion,
Here.
Mattapoisett,
Here.
Middleborough, New Bedford,
Here.
North Attleboro,
Here.
Norton, Plainville, Raynham, Rehoboth, Rochester, Seekonk, Somerset, Swansea, Taunton, Wareham, Westport.
Here.
Okay. At-large commissioner for Attleboro. At-large commissioner for Fall River.
Present.
Yes.
Thank you. At-large commissioner for New Bedford.
Alan here.
Ashley's here.
Thank you both. At-large for Taunton. Okay, so all right. Is there anyone I missed? Even later. We should be good to go, Gloria.
All set, Gloria, if you want to move on to the next item.
She might be having connectivity issues, I have a feeling.
Andrea, I no longer see her among the attendees, so she might have dropped off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any of the co-chairs present? No.
Alan is a co-chair. A vice chair, sorry. Would you like to do the honor?
You want me to start the meeting?
Continue, please.
Okay, need a motion to approve the minutes. August 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you want to do the roll call?
Berkeley. Berkeley,
Yes.
thank you. Dartmouth,
Yes.
Fairhaven,
Abstain.
thank you. Fall River,
Yes.
Lakeville,
Yes.
Mansfield,
Yes.
Marion,
Yes.
Mattapoisett,
Yes.
New Bedford,
Yes.
North Attleboro,
Yes.
Westport,
Yes.
at large for Attleboro, at large for Fall River. Glorious. At large for New Bedford.
Ellen, yes.
Ashley, yes.
Thank you, thank you. All right, all set.
Okay. Next is, do we have any public comments online? Hearing nothing, we'll go to number 4, Regional Transit Authority RTA updates. Catra?
Sure. Mary Ellen DeFries with GATRA. We are gearing up for a new hiring spree. We are still down drivers, so we are working we're able to keep service on the road right now, but it is very tight. So adjusting for, any service expansion is going to be very difficult until we can get some more employees. The Wareham facility is moving along, and we still anticipate getting in there at some point this fall. So we're super excited about that. And I don't know if anyone's here from SRTA, but I think our biggest excitement right now is the Gateway Link, which links Brockton, Taunton, and Fall River together. In its first month, saw a ridership of 1,068 passengers, which is really amazing. And it shows that while South Coast Rail also connects those communities, the direct connection to the bus transit facilities, along with the VA hospital and Bristol Community College, and Stonehill College, sorry, I want to give credit where credit is due, really is a need in this region. And so we are looking to see if we can get that extended for another year with the new round of funding that's out, and then see what can be done in the future to keep something like that going. That's the report from GATRA.
Any questions of GATRA? None heard. Sir, is anyone here from them?
Hi, yes, Christina Mendoza, Director of Transit Planning with CERTA. Thank you for having me today. I have a brief update. We have some exciting news. We've expanded our micro connector service, which, if you're not aware of that, it's our micro transit service that provides direct connections from Fall River and New Bedford to the associated South Coast Rail stations. We have new service hours as well as new zones. Our service hours are now on weekdays from 4 to 9:30 a.m. as well as 5:30 to 11 p.m. And our zones have also increased in span in the service area. So if you're interested in learning more about the service, I encourage you all to check out our website. It has a link directly to our microconnector service page that'll provide you with more information. Also, just another note, we are continuing our fare-free service through June 30th of next year, which is very exciting. And we're also continuing our efforts to develop our 2025 Comprehensive Regional Transit Plan with MassDOT, which is a plan that we develop every 5 years that looks at our transit needs within the region. And we also have more information on that effort as well as a link to our survey that we're currently we'd love participation in to hear your thoughts on our service. And yeah, that's basically, I think, everything on our end from CERTA. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Andrea, because I'm using my iPad, if I use my phone, we'll get a lot of volume feedback. So if anyone raises their hand, you'll have to recognize them for me.
Will do, Alan. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is community of practice discussion. It says opportunity for members to share questions, project updates, challenges, success stories, lessons learned. Andrea, you can handle it from here for that one.
So this is our monthly agenda item on if folks have any questions on that they want to bring to others in the group who might be able to give them advice on any specific transportation related topic, or share something successful that has happened that might be helpful to others. This is your opportunity to do that.
dead silence.
I wanted to mention just very briefly, and Will is here with us today. There will be a walk audit on Route 6 in Fairhaven, from the bridge to the intersection with God, I'm blanking on the street now. Following the Middle Street, thank you. Following the deaths that occurred on that road. So there's the South Coast Places for People has put together a working group to get folks involved in advocating for changes on that roadway. So that's a positive development happening after that situation. And if no one has anything else to share, we can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, fiscal year 2025 United Planning Work Program. Whoever's presenting that, please.
That'll be me. Thanks, Alan. So as we're wrapping up our federal fiscal year 25, which ends at the end of this month, and commencing federal fiscal year 26 UPWP work, we kind of wanted to go over what we've accomplished and give you a preview of what's to come in the upcoming year. So start off with our management and support of planning studies and process work. Under our 3C planning task, we conducted 13 MEPA reviews. We continue our coordination with MassDOT, our federal partners, and our communities on all types of work. We went through our federal certification. Some of you may recall earlier this year, there were 3 public meetings, which some of you attended, and we have been certified. We do have some recommendations that we are working towards advancing over the next year. For our public participation process, we've been very busy. We try to get out to the community as much as we can. We've been doing some safety education, tabling at community events in New Bedford and Fall River. For both of our age-friendly mobility plan and our food access plan, we've been doing outreach at numerous venues, as well as coordinating with food system organizations. And then, as you see here on the screen to the right, I just wanted to highlight that we did an infographic on the opening of the South Coast Rail, and we received over 20,000 views. It was also shared over 40 times across Facebook and Instagram, so super proud of that work. Also, we continued our yearly development of our UPWP, so our federal fiscal year 26 is up on our website, as well as the Transportation Improvement Program, our 26 to 30 document. You can find that as well. We continue coordination and offer that assistance to all of our communities with project development. We've also been busy with amendments and adjustments to our 25 to 29 tip. And as we develop the 26 to 30 tip, we encourage all of our communities to go look at our analysis on the distribution of tip funding. And the reason that we do this is to try and highlight those communities that may not have taken advantage of that, so that we can work with them closely and hopefully get some projects across the whole region. Data management, GIS, and modeling. We continue to maintain our signalized intersection database and interactive map. We're doing counts at our park and ride lots, as well as commuter rail lots that are not owned by the MBTA, to gauge the usage of those lots and ridership as well. We continue to do crash data collection and analysis. And then we also analyze land use numbers, US Census data, and ACS data as needed for our traffic studies and for requests. Under our traffic count program, we conducted 94 ATR counts to date. Also turning movement counts, we completed 55, 16 of those were for specific studies, and 39 of those were to support our signalized intersection database and updated information. Under our pavement management task, we surveyed 6 communities and conducted analysis for 13 of those. Some of that analysis is based on data collection from the previous year. Performance measures, we continue to monitor statewide as well as internal performance measures and continue to update the dashboard that can be found on our website. Our community technical assistance program, we completed 12 of those. We have 4 in progress and 1 in queue, and we'll be doing a presentation shortly at an upcoming meeting on those that have been accomplished recently. Under our integrated management systems, we are closing out phase 1 of our food access and security and transportation plan, as well as our parking lot utilization plan. You'll hear about those very shortly. We also participate in road safety audits. We continue monitoring for congestion and bottlenecks along our roadways, and we are wrapping up our regional evacuation route study. Under active transportation, we are closing out phase 1 of our age-friendly and mobility plan. We also continue to support our bike groups within our region. We completed a trails mapping year-end report, as well as continued data collection, and we did assist several communities in applying for Mass Trails grants. Under our environmental planning task, our environmental department has continued to support our coastal communities in identifying, prioritizing, and implementing coastal flood mitigation and adaptation projects, as well as stormwater needs assessments. And they are mapping vulnerable flood zone areas from stormwater and general flooding. Under our transit planning and support task, as you can see here, Dan, our transit planner, has been very busy. He's been doing public service announcements. Those can be found on our YouTube channel. We've also revitalized Southeast Regional Coordination Council on Transportation, known as SRPEDD, to try and identify additional gaps in transportation. I think, Mary Ellen spoke about the Gateway link, and that, was an outcome, was identified as a need way back when. And Dan's been busy working on an interactive transit accessible parkland map, and he'll be presenting that as well at an upcoming meeting. And then just looking ahead a little bit to federal fiscal year 26, which actually commences on October 1st. We're going to be continuing our age-friendly mobility plan. We'll be into phase 2. Food access and security and transportation as well, phase 2, and our parking lot utilization assessment. We are going to be commencing a corridor in the city of Fall River along Pleasant Street. We're going to be doing an update to our congestion management plan, as well as working on our Homeland Security Department is going to be working on evacuation tabletop exercises to assist our communities in being ready in case an emergency commences. And that's all I have. Happy to take any questions at this time, and we could also hold off. We have some following presentations on some of those documents that I mentioned.
No questions? Just a quick update. Wareham became an age-friendly community 9 years ago when I started the program. I signed it off to the council on aging to continue. For some reason, they just did the survey and they never finished the other pieces that are required down the line. So if you want to make a note about age-friendly transportation, the council on aging Wareham is in process with a subcommittee of moving forward to finish whatever's required.
Thanks, Alan.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Alan. That's super helpful.
Okay. Next is a draft regional evacuation plan presentation. We'll need a vote on this afterwards.
Thank you, Alan. So this is more of an update than a presentation, because we talked about this at length at the last meeting. And if you're interested on learning more about it, there's a really good write-up in the minutes from the last meeting about it. But basically, we worked with all of our communities and our partners to come up with this evacuation route study. And we are finally really ready to release it to the public and start getting some input. And our hope is that this body will vote to recommend that the MPO release it at their meeting next week for a public comment period. It is technically available on our website. We just are not promoting it publicly yet. But feel free to go and look at it. I'll drop a link in the chat. We're very excited about it, and we're very excited to test it out with those tabletop exercises starting in October. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to approve and submit to the MPO.
Motion to approve and submit.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dartmouth,
Yes.
Fairhaven,
Yes.
Fall River,
Yes.
Lakeville,
Yes.
Mansfield,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. Okay. Marion,
Yes.
Mattapoisett. Yes. New Bedford,
Yes.
North Attleboro,
Yes.
Westport,
Yes.
at large for New Bedford, Ashley,
Yes.
thank you. And at large for New Bedford, Allen,
Yes,
thank you. The motion passes.
thank you all. Next up is parking lot utilization plan, phase 1 update.
I think you skipped an item.
Oh, okay, sorry. Food access and security in transportation plan, phase 1. I'm always good doing that update.
Hi everyone, that's me. It's going to be presenting. I'm just going to share my screen real quick.
Thank you.
Can everyone see that correctly?
Yep.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Noah Studier. I'm the Public Health and Transportation Planner here at SRPEDD, and today I'm going to be giving a phase 1 update of the Food Access and Security and Transportation Plan, otherwise fondly known as the FAST Plan. So through strong public engagement efforts, core public health principles, the examination of existing GIS data, and regional coalition involvement, the SMMPO Food Access and Security and Transportation Plan provides a better understanding of the current food access circumstances and seeks to provide suggestions to bolstering regional food resilience, as well as healthy food access across our transportation practices. Phase 1 of this plan includes the following report and a public GIS mapping toolkit that both explore the current geographic landscape of food access within the SMMPO region. So across the region, we know that community members may use a variety of food access locations, such as grocery stores, convenience stores, farmers markets, food pantries, etc. Similarly, we know that the SMMPO region is home to a wide variety of food-based businesses and organizations that make up a diverse regional food system. But disparities in access and availability of healthy food options leave significant portions of the region without easy access to food, as well as the necessary resources to make healthy food choices. And what's particularly striking to me is that in 2024, more than 1 in 3 households, or roughly 37%, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts reported experiencing food insecurity within the last year. This number reflects a continued upward trend year over year in the total number of individuals, which has now surpassed over 2 million Massachusetts residents who have shared concerns about where their next meal would be sourced from. So in Massachusetts, we have federal and state financial assistance programs that seek to increase healthy food access. The state's Healthy Incentives Program provides enrolled SNAP users with a dollar-for-dollar reimbursement when users buy healthy, fresh, and local foods directly from their farmers. And as of July 2025, the once cut monthly benefits were fully restored to their original values through federal fiscal year 26, with assistance set to be provided at $40, $60, and $80 increments depending on household size. Since the HIP program began in 2017, more than 206,000 households, which totals over 300,000 individuals, have used HIP and purchased more than $81 million in healthy local food, so supporting the local economy as well. And in June, as you can see on the screen, in both Bristol and Plymouth County, HIP household usage was reported at only 3% and 2% respectively of all eligible households, which highlights an incredibly underutilized resource to our SNAP recipients in the region. Moving on, we also see that the Commonwealth has a deep and rich history in agriculture that heavily shapes the food access landscape, both here in Bristol and Plymouth County and beyond. The Massachusetts Farmland Action Plan reports that by 2040, between 50 and 90,000 acres of farmland within the state are projected to be converted to other uses, which ranks Massachusetts as the third most at-risk state in the country for land conversion risk. And this equates to a loss of more than 1,200 local farms, $91 million in economic revenue, and almost 5,000 sector-based jobs. Further, the region's farmland workforce continues to age, as the average age of producers stands at almost 60 years old. Workers in the food and agricultural industries also tend to earn wages below their counterparts in other sectors. And so in terms of public engagement for the FAST plan specifically, SMMPO staff held multiple meetings with a variety of community-based organizations that provide food access-related services to multiple populations within the MPO region. These community partners represent a broad constituent base, from at-risk children and families to elderly populations, local farmers and SNAP recipients. A wide range of priorities and concerns were discussed, and the following list provides both the organizations contacted and the date of communication. During these meetings specifically, community partners were asked to provide feedback and expertise regarding regional food access and transportation concerns, and how their organizations may have helped regional food access and resiliency efforts. Myself, alongside my colleagues, asked specific guiding questions during these meetings, which included, how does transportation access impact your work? What, if any, transportation concerns have been identified by the communities that you interact with? And beyond transportation concerns, what other priorities should be addressed to improve healthy food access? Moving forward, as the FAST plan moves into phase 2 of its development process, the information and data contained in this report will be expanded upon and substantiated through further public engagement efforts to adequately sustain long-term improvements in the food access ecosystem. A public survey translated into all SRPEDD provided languages and distributed both in person and across social media platforms will be included and have questions, as you can see on the screen. Progress is currently being made on turning this draft report into a finalized design version. You can see here a sample page from what that document is going to look like. And then finally, kind of the meat and bones of this entire project. Alongside this phase 1 report, SMMPO staff have worked to produce an online publicly accessible food access toolkit to be used as a resource among transportation department staff here at SRPEDD, local elected officials, community-based organizations, and community members to better understand the current landscape of food access within the MPO region. So I'm going to open that up for you all real quick right now. This GIS data intends to visually represent the regional distribution of food access, locations such as grocery stores, food pantries, and the like that I mentioned earlier, alongside transportation-specific information, such as the existing service routes for SRTA and GATRA, the current bicycle and pedestrian networks across the entire MPO region, as well as we're hoping to add high injury network information determined through the recent completion of our 2025 Regional Safety Action Plan. And we also found that it was important to add secondary information, such as the locations of local hospitals, housing authorities, and schools, seeing as these kind of supplement food access issues in the region. Phase 2 of the FAST plan will continue to update this GIS data to ensure accuracy, perform further analyses. We're hoping to get in some walkshed data from our Regional Transit Authority bus stops, and combine this information with the survey data that I mentioned previously. And so this is a quick crash course, and this is going to be publicly available online coming soon. You can zoom into our regional towns and municipalities, and you can see that our food retailer locations are distributed kind of along a spectrum of the quality of food potentially provided at these retail locations. And you can kind of conjoin this information with things such as our bus stops in the region, our regional bike networks, the bus routes specifically, as well as information related to some of our adjoining communities. So Rhode Island food retailers are included on this list, since we know that people obviously sometimes go in between regional boundaries to access food as well. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a really useful toolkit for us and our partners. And then just finally, I'm going to just put up on this last screen right here some website information related to all things food access here at the Transportation Department. And obviously a big shout out to the rest of the Transportation Department staff, because without them, this would not be possible. So I appreciate all of your contributions. I'd be happy to take any questions or answer any concerns that you may have. Yeah, Ashley?
I may have missed it. I think the map is really cool. Are you planning to add food pantries as a mapped location?
Yes, so that was one of the ones that I didn't say were on here. Food pantries are an additional resource on this list.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
This is Alan. Damien's Pantry continues to get increased demand for food to the point now that the 2 days a week that we're open for people to come in, we're maxing out our parking area and having an issue with actually put cars on the streets, etc. We have one bus, which Gatra thankfully supplied us. We have one box truck. We need a second box truck for picking up food. It seems like the demand just keeps increasing.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I think that's definitely something that we're planning on noting in the plan, as well as how to help our community-based organizations bolster their resources as well to continue to provide access to our local communities. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, we need to put the agenda back up on the screen for me. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the one that I tried to skip originally. And that'll be parking lot utilization plan.
Thanks, Alan. John here. I will be sharing my screen.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. All right, so this is a story map that we created on our regional parking utilization assessment. So we sort of, have traditionally not looked too much into parking. We've looked at park and ride lots, commuter rail stations, but not a whole lot other than that. We have done specific studies over the past, but we wanted to take a little bit more deep look into the region's parking and get some more hard data. So that's really sort of the reason why we ventured into this. So I'll just scroll through this story map. I won't mention everything just for brevity, but parking, it's interesting because it's almost like complete streets. The goal with complete streets is to sort of get the design right, something that reflects multiple transportation needs. And parking affects a lot of different things, from the cost of housing, the look and feel of places like downtowns, how easy it is to walk or bike with various parking driveway entrances, things like that, as well as the ability of small businesses to thrive. So we wanted to take a closer look at parking, and so that was sort of the data that we'll share here in this parking utilization. So we reached out to our cities, the 4 cities of Taunton, New Bedford, Fall River, and Attleboro. Fall River actually just completed a parking study, and they were not in need of data collection at this time. So we really focused in on New Bedford, Attleboro, and Taunton for this phase of the assessment. And so we looked at various lots in those sort of downtown and port areas. So the port of New Bedford was where we looked, and then for downtown Attleboro and downtown on sort of a lot of the lots. So I'll go through some of these maps. So for Attleboro, some of the lots included, the Sanford Street area, the parking garage, the Surface Street lot, the library, as well as a small little lot called Gilbert Perry Square. and then some lots sort of closer down towards the commuter rail station that were those parking lots were potential targets for potential infill development. So we wanted to gather some data on that. And this was what we had found. So this was, looking at the time window of 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. The majority of our data collection was in the sort of the 8 to 4 window. We did collect a little bit of data in the 5 to 7 window. So, it's important to note here, this is collected over 4 different days. So each city got a data collection on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday. So this is sort of the average of those days. And we can see here in Attleboro, certain lots have a higher utilization, some lots have a lower utilization. And so I will go into sort of the other ones. This is New Bedford, looking at a lot of those lots in the port area. So a lot of that is, heavily sort of like commercial fisheries, as well as like the state pier, and Pier 3 is one that, has a lot of different uses like restaurants and things like that. We also looked at the MBTA lot, formerly named Whale's Tooth, over by the commuter rail station. And for the utilization rates on those lots, we did see pretty low utilization for the Port of New Bedford. I didn't mention at the top, but this data was collected late March through April and into May. So, this is pre sort of the peak season for the port, because, the ferries were not operating when we did this data. So, looking forward, I think we would probably want to be collecting data for the Port of New Bedford more in the summer season to get a little bit more accurate picture here. But certainly before the peak season in the springtime, we see pretty low overall utilization, with some lots like Merrill's Wharf and Homer's Wharf a higher overall utilization. We also looked in downtown Taunton, so we looked at the Court Street lot, as well as the Truscott Street lot, and then down along Ware Street, the Galligan's Court lot, a lot owned by TMLP, and then several lots over by Taunton City Hall. And so the data we found for Taunton was actually higher utilization than Attleboro and New Bedford overall. I think part of that is just in sort of the lots that were chosen for this assessment. That was all the lots that were selected were, in concert with, what the municipal liaison were sort of looking for. So this was, lots that the city had indicated were, challenges in terms of, parking utilization and trying to get a sense on what the utilization rates are. So, I think we'll say, here we do see some of these higher utilization rates, the 91 and 85% utilization for the City Hall Lot A. But I think it's important to note also that, Lot B and Lot C are directly adjacent to Lot A. So it's a very small, it's 100, 200 feet away. And even during the high peak use for City Hall Lot A, a short walk away, a couple hundred feet, is a lower utilization. So overall, what we found was, a pretty low utilization for a lot of the parking. And I think that it's important to note that, that parking, especially in downtowns, is difficult because the perception is that there isn't, enough. And so it's really sort of helpful, I think, to have some of this data to sort of look at this in a more data focused way, to see that, the parking is certainly used, but it's not nearly 100% full in a lot of cases. Some of that might be, again, affected by the seasonality. So, over time with more data, we'll have a better picture on a lot of this. I think one thing I did want to note is the 85% utilization rate. So this is sort of an interesting graphic that I think is helpful. Sort of trying to target 85% as an overall utilization rate for a parking lot is helpful, just in terms of knowing whether parking pricing is appropriately done for a specific lot. So if a parking lot is typically over 85% utilization on a consistent basis, that might be indicative that parking is not priced effectively. So it might indicate that the parking pricing for that lot or those on-street spaces may need to be raised to sort of spread the demand a little bit further out, so that folks that really do need the spaces and are willing to pay a higher price can actually access the spots necessary. We also looked into parking studies that have been previously completed. So downtown New Bedford parking study was done in 2019. Downtown Attleboro parking study was done in 2022. And like I mentioned at the outset, Fall River just completed a parking study in 2024. And a lot of the data that was captured in those parking studies pretty closely mirrors our findings overall. We also looked at some other regional parking initiatives. So MAPC has their Perfect Fit Parking Initiative, and it's very similar overall findings of relatively low utilization rates for a lot of different. In this case, MAPC was primarily looking at residential parking lots in the greater Boston area. And so, we wanted to sort of also just note some of the additional research we did. I think one thing that I did find that was interesting was the governor appointed Unlocking Housing Production Commission, I want to say in 2024. And this February, they actually just released a report titled Building for Tomorrow. And there's a link to it here in the story map. And it formally recommended these two items here: the elimination of parking minimums statewide for any residential use, and requiring municipalities establish transportation demand management requirements for certain developments. So I think obviously it's important to note that this is just a commission that's making a recommendation to the governor, and to actually implement those, that would be a state legislative act. So it's not by any means saying that this is going to be occurring anytime soon, but it is helpful, I think, for us to sort of understand, where things are moving, what the state level policy wonks are thinking in terms of parking and transportation and housing, because it's all obviously interrelated. This is a photo that we captured of Tia Maria's European Cafe on North Water Street in downtown New Bedford. And I love this photo because if you actually go to the Google Street View on it, you'll see a bunch of cars parked along that street there. And so, it sort of shows a little bit about the opportunity cost associated with parking, in terms of making spaces that are for people, or making spaces that are for cars. And so obviously you have to strike the right balance. And so this is one interesting case where utilizing on-street parking instead for dining was something that was implemented during COVID as sort of an emergency measure, but it still continues to this day to remain dining. So it's a policy that has kind of, or I guess a land use that has sort of continued even since COVID. So moving forward, I think a lot of this is about sort of demand management and how do we manage parking in a way that makes the most sense. And I think it's helpful to maybe think about parking as almost like an intersection. An intersection might function just perfectly for 22 or 23 hours a day with no congestion whatsoever. But rush hour, all of a sudden, the intersection is congested and a huge headache for folks. And so that's a good way to sort of think about parking, is that, a lot of times you'll have low utilization for a large portion of the day, and then it'll be peak, and it'll be really heavily utilized. This is a photo from actually 2023. This is Target in Taunton. This is actually Black Friday, so it's around sunset on Black Friday, and you can see, a lot of the times the big box stores, their parking is sort of built out to try to capture that, what is that peak demand? And so you would think that Black Friday would probably be that peak demand. And so we can see here, there was still a lot of excess parking at that site, even on a peak demand day. We also have, just a screenshot here from MassDOT's Beyond Mobility Plan, which is sort of the long-range plan for MassDOT, noting, the values of prioritizing reduced car travel, consistency and dependability and travel times for folks. And overall, MassDOT does not believe in roadway expansion as a means of congestion reduction. And I think that similarly can be thought of for parking in terms of, not thinking of parking lot expansion necessarily as a means to reduce parking headaches. We continue to look at a lot of different parking studies, estimates of parking construction costs for typical lots ranging from $3,000 to $10,000 per space. For new parking structures like a parking garage, the national median construction price as of 2025 is $31,000 per space. So parking certainly costs a lot, but it's not necessarily always reflected on your bills or your receipts for different products that you might go throughout the day. And I think it's also important to note that this is region-wide. Looking at SRPEDD, 9% of households in the SRPEDD region do not have access to a vehicle, and 34% of households in the SRPEDD region have access to one vehicle. So, about 43% of folks in the SRPEDD region have access to one or fewer vehicles. So I think it's important to note that just in terms of how we're overall thinking about meeting the transportation needs of the region. And so looking forward, how do we move forward in this parking utilization assessment? And part of that is on demand management. So I mentioned earlier, transportation demand management, TDM, is a strategy. And one great example of TDM is on-demand bus, SRTA bus. In this case, picking up a senior at the New Bedford Senior Center at Buttonwood Park. And that's, so one of the great options that TDM, that transportation demand management, is a variety of different tools and strategies to sort of cut away at parking demand. And so how are we sort of moving forward here into fiscal year 26 and beyond? So our thought process is that we're sort of going to continue to assist municipalities in whatever way is helpful. And so some of that might be continued data collection for specific lots, but that also might be specific technical assistance with transportation demand management. So the Federal Highway Administration actually has a guide here that we've linked to. It talks about integrating transportation demand management at the MPO level. And so this is one of the sort of what are the success factors. So the Federal Highway Administration looked at a number of different MPOs and try to find success stories and try to look at what were the characteristics of those programs that made them successful. And so MPOs were identifying champions, internal and external champions that could raise the profile of TDM in the region, proactive coordination, especially with private sector. So in a certain case where a parking lot is a municipal parking lot is directly next to a privately owned parking lot, there are strategies, TDM strategies like shared parking agreements. So whether it's a contractual agreement that this parking lot can be used for various different businesses or uses. Also, in terms of the MPO performance measures, incorporating TDM into performance measures and sort of the decision-making process. Some MPOs have actually created specific TDM programs. So that's, funding employer subsidies for transit or, various different programs to sort of eat away at that demand for parking because, a lot of times a small investment in certain things like in the case of remote work, remote work can be actually considered a TDM strategy because it's eliminating the need for more parking by sort of eliminating, customers or people who are potentially using parking in a specific area of high demand. Another one here is data collection. So we started that process with this phase 1, and we'll continue that into the next phase of this. And then the final one here, integrate land use and non-motorized planning. So, making sure that we're making that link between, parking lots and the associated land use. And so whether that's the zoning code requirements as it relates to parking, but also, how we make places more walkable, more bikeable, things like that. And so that's really it. So we are, trying to basically be a toolkit for our communities here, and basically provide, technical assistance in whatever way it's helpful for each municipality. Obviously, each municipality is different. Each municipality has different areas that are potentially high parking demand or low parking demand, and the different zoning ordinances or bylaws. And so we're sort of just putting this out that we're ready and willing to assist in terms of gathering data or better thinking through ways that communities can potentially adjust their policies or plans to more efficiently use land. And in the case of reducing parking, that could potentially benefit businesses or housing production or green space, and generally speaking, trying to make places that are not just parking lots but overall great neighborhoods and places that people can sort of gather together, and those places are typically great economic drivers. So here's my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments. I'm sure everyone's got a comment on parking overall. So it's always happy to have a conversation here, and if you want to reach out, feel free.
This is Al again. Just to let you know, in Wareham, we have Wareham Village and Onset Village, which there's virtually no parking for businesses. So I've written a warrant article, which will go into the Springtown meeting, mirroring somewhat Boston does, in which we will allow up to a half a mile of public parking to count for parking requirements under the zoning laws for businesses.
Great. Thanks, Alan.
Will has his hand up. Will Garner.
Hey there. Thanks for the presentation, John. Super interesting data. I know one of the issues in New Bedford, as far as some proposed housing, is this kind of fear of parking scarcity in residential neighborhoods. Do you have any case studies of places where they have done like residential permits or priced parking in residential places to start to address that perception of scarcity?
Wareham. We have.
Go ahead, Alan. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
In Wareham, Onset Village, we have basically the residents have like a parking permit. Anybody else parking in those areas get ticketed and towed. It's been in effect for about 3 years now.
Awesome. Can I ask a follow-up on that, Alan?
Sure.
Are they able to, or I guess do they have to pay for those permits annually, or how's the pricing work there?
They basically pay a small fee, and depending on the location, they may be able to also buy a permit for someone that comes and visits.
Oh, that's great. And where does the money go to?
My back pocket.
Nice.
No, it goes into our general fund.
I was gonna add maybe a little bit to Will's, where I feel like the challenge in New Bedford feels a little more nuanced in that I think sometimes it's popping up to be like, could we do residential parking in response to residential developments coming online? And then it becomes this conversation of new residents versus old residents. Are the old residents getting parking permits and the new ones are? And that feels weird. but is like an interesting challenge that we're sort of having to solve when these new developments can't sort of fit all their parking on site. And how do we delicately balance all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, our data was definitely more, in sort of the downtown areas and in the port areas, but I think, it's every area is different and trying to solve parking with, sort of a broad overall strategy that applies to the entire municipality might not be the most effective way to sort of manage those location specific challenges. So yeah, great points.
When we did our program initially, there was like a firestorm all around town about the whole thing. Why should we have to, pay for parking? Why can't we park like Arts Village to go to the beach? It took about 2 or 3 years for everything to calm down. We kept modifying the plan until everybody was more or less accepting it. It's a very difficult thing to deal with when you have, 5,000 or less square foot lots of houses that were designed to have a horse and carriage in them. And over the years, that particular piece of land became part of the house and garden, and everybody has to park on the street. And you have a lot of households with actually 2 to 4 cars. So it is a real difficult thing to solve. Thank you.
Yeah, Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say thank you for providing that information. I was at some of the comprehensive plan meetings in Attleboro. The common feedback was people saying that there isn't enough parking already for what's going on. So I think it's very enlightening to see the numbers that it's actually not as full as people perceive it to be. I think if they can't get a spot right up front for where they want to go, they're like, oh, there's no parking. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Emma. And I would definitely recommend checking out the 2022 downtown Attleboro parking plan or assessment because that has some great data in it as well. But yeah, I would say generally speaking, just on your comment there, like, we typically see higher utilization for parking for on-street spaces, which makes perfect sense. It's the most convenient place to park. And, I think a lot of the perception for downtowns or village centers of not enough parking is because it's not physically directly in your eyesight. A lot of times the parking is sort of hidden behind buildings and things like that. So it's very different than your big box store where you've got a large amount of parking directly in front of the building and you can see all of that empty spaces and oh, I can go and find a spot. With the downtowns and village centers, because it's hidden, it gives that sense of it's constrained, it's harder to find parking, which obviously is one cost of having a thriving downtown is that you've got a lot of smaller buildings that are close together and so finding parking is maybe more of a challenge for those places. All right, without any further ado, I think Alan would probably can do the next agenda item.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Okay, next one will be the age-friendly mobility plan phase 1 update.
Hi everyone, that's me. I'm just gonna share my screen.
Thank you.
Yeah, can everyone see my screen?
Not yet. No, good now.
So I'm just gonna give an update on phase 1 of our age-friendly mobility plan. So we started work on the age-friendly mobility plan in April this year, so a little bit later than some of our other projects. We folded it into our work plan. And I just wanted to start out by just with a reminder of what age-friendly means. So age-friendly spaces are communities, services, and environments designed to be inclusive, supportive, and accessible for people of all ages, especially older adults, helping them to age actively and live well, and to be able to age in place with independence and dignity. So the goals for this project are to we're developing this plan to identify needs, priorities, and recommendations for ourselves for future SRPEDD technical assistance work on transportation related improvements that encourage healthy aging in our communities, and also guide future investments in aging and dementia-friendly infrastructure across our region. And we are asking the question of how accessible, one of the central questions in this study is how accessible really is transit in our region and transportation infrastructure for older adults, and seeking to better understand the mobility barriers that prevent aging residents from accessing essential services, even in communities that score well on traditional livability metrics. And so it builds on insights and learnings from SRPEDD's Age Span Healthy Aging for All 2.0, which the co-lead on this project, Amber, she unfortunately was not able to be here today. But last year, she spent a lot of time working closely with our rural COAs to identify services that they provide and where older adults in our region go to get services and information, and how we can integrate that into our planning work. So that laid a really strong foundation for us to be able to do better planning with older adult communities. It also responds to needs identified in the SMMPO's current RTP moving forward 2050, and the scenario planning that we did in there, which revealed that no age group is projected to experience as much growth in the next few decades in our region as people over 65. And so for some context, older adults, 65 plus, make up 18% of the population of our region, which is about 650,000. And the highest older adult population growth rates are expected in communities that lack robust transit service, including Middleborough, Berkeley, Norton, and Rochester. And then another important piece to this is that 9%, or roughly 58,000 households in our region, don't have access to a vehicle. And you can see from the maps here where those pockets are throughout our region. So, part that's in Wareham, Carver, parts of Middleborough, parts of Westport. So those are kind of, that's informing where we are targeting the work on this project as well. So in phase one, we focused on background research, gathering data on older adult needs already collected in previous projects and studies that we've done, and doing quantitative and GIS spatial analysis, starting that. So the quantitative and spatial data that we collect together with public engagement insights are going to help us inform where the most important locations and gaps to focus age-friendly transportation improvements and technical assistance work, community tech work. So in phase one, we delved into the AARP livability scores for our communities, and specifically their COA, their Council on Aging neighborhoods across the region. And we began mapping and beginning to look at the conditions of transit networks compared to where older adults live. So our study rates livability across our communities using a custom age-friendly mobility livability score. That's a mouthful. So it basically builds on AARP's livability index, which kind of scores communities, gives communities a livability score based on the 7 domains of transportation, housing, neighborhood, environment, health, engagement, opportunity. And then, so we took those scores and added a weight for transportation. And then we further modified the score to base, specifically looking at just the COAs in phase 1 of the study, looking at those neighborhoods. And we further modified the score based on the proximity of the nearest transit stop. So looking at the COAs, if they had a transit stop closer, they had an added weight and they scored higher in terms of the mobility part of the scoring. So we found that in this chart here, these are the communities in the region that scored the highest with this mobility adjusted score because of their access to transit. And it's not surprising. A lot of our all of our cities fall in the top of the index here. And the majority of COA neighborhoods in SRPEDD communities, when we adjusted for mobility in that livability score, the score was actually lower when we adjust for mobility and the weight of being able to access places through transit. And then the other part, we worked on GIS mapping. So basically, we mapped the red dots on this map are the clusters of where older adults live right now, where one dot represents 90 or so people. And the green points are the locations of the COAs, and then you see our SRTA and GATRA and MBTA routes. And the gateway link that Mary Ellen mentioned is filling a really important gap too. And that's going to be added to the map later on as well. So here we're doing a walk and bike shed analysis, looking at what kinds of are there transit facilities and service near the COAs, and we're looking at the COAs as kind of nodes and hubs in this study because they provide a really wide array of essential services to older adults, from housing assistance and food assistance, connecting them with case management and all those kinds of resources. So that's why we wanted to start with that and look at how accessible is it getting to those hubs. So yeah, so a walk and bike shed analysis, looking at the COAs and their connection to transit. We're gonna look in more detail into that in phase 2 of the study. And then I wanted to mention too that it's not in this map right now, but we are going to be trying to map the demand response services like Dial a Ride and on the demand response the SRTA does and that kind of thing. The COAs van services to because those fill an important gap for older folks who don't have access to a vehicle and who don't have access to fixed route, or they can't use the fixed route bus service. And it's a huge service that our RTAs and COAs provide. So we are going to be incorporating that here too. And then this is some of the public engagement that we did in phase 1. And some of these meetings were kind of dovetailing with the food access plan, where the needs of older folks in the community came up. We did, start talking with folks in the South Coast Bikeway Alliance about biking, because it's not the first thing that comes to mind for older adult transportation, but it is part of it's active transportation, and it's part of healthy aging to be active. So just trying to learn more about where and why older adults are biking and how we can improve those opportunities for them. And then some of the insights that we've, gotten from some of these meetings and events include emphasis on demand response services and family carpooling being a major resource for older adults who can't drive. The need for increased public transportation frequency and reliability and service area that's covered, and expanding fixed route service to more areas, especially in connection serving healthcare facilities. Limited awareness of when paratransit services exist in their communities and how to use them came up kind of often too. And also, we've heard about limited capacity of volunteer driver programs in the COAs. That has been a challenge to meeting the demand for transportation for the older folks. And so we'll be having more conversations with the COAs to see what the demand is, what are the top locations people are needing to get to, and where the most important gaps. So phase 2, we're going to be continuing data collection and analysis, looking at the kinds of, doing a kind of survey on what are the transportation services that our COAs provide across the region, and the existence of transit stops, and what are the amenities of the transit stops, like the ADA, and are there sidewalks, is there shelter, that kind of thing. Looking at bus stops across our region in high priority areas, and where would most be helpful for us to use the resources that we have to make improvements, or to help make improvements. And then doing the walk and bike shed analysis of the transit stops, and also the higher density senior housing locations, and looking at what are the amenities around those. And then with public engagement, doing interviews, focus groups, and surveys with older adults and the organizations who serve them. In phase 2, to learn about the top locations that older adults actually access on a regular basis, and how they get there, and mobility challenges around that, and where they would prioritize improvements and investments based on their own lived experiences, because we don't want this to just be informed by the maps and the scores, but we really want to hear people's lived experiences and what's the most important to them, because that is the ultimate goal of the project. And then also meeting with municipal staff of communities who have age-friendly plans already, and the communities that scored low in the livability and mobility scoring that we've been looking at. So for those who already have the age-friendly plans, that includes Acushnet, Dartmouth, Fall River, Marion, New Bedford, Somerset, and Wareham. So we want to follow up with these communities and see where they are with their plans, and how we can help plug into some of that work to assist them. And also, of course, speaking with our RTAs, it's a big part of that work too. And the plan is scheduled to conclude in fall 2026 for final distribution, following our JTPG and MPO presentations at those meetings, and community partner review of the plan. And there will be a comment period later on too. Yeah, and I will answer any questions folks have right now. I included the website for the project on the first slide, and these slides are going to go out. I'm going to send them out after the meeting too.
No questions?
not as hot a topic as parking, I guess.
Okay,
All right, thanks, Alan.
thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Next up, does anyone have any other business?
I'll just announce real quick that Mass UT has opened their application cycle for community transit grants. So that is available to COAs, municipalities, nonprofits, and private operators of public transit service. We'll send out additional information after this meeting with the slides from the presentations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is date and time for next meeting.
October 8th, that is a Wednesday at 2 p.m. and we will be in hybrid format once again. Come out and join us. SRPEDD staff is always here in the back conference room.
Okay, thank you. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second.
Seconded.
We don't have to vote because that's something you don't have to vote on. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a great day.